You're listening to East of the Rockies, the Michigan Student Softball Podcast on WCBN Sports.
Well, Mr. Burns had done it. The power plant had won it, with Roger Clemens clucking all the while. Mike Scioscia's tragic illness made us smile, while Wade Boggs lay unconscious on the barroom tile. We're talking softball, from Maine to San Diego, talking softball. Mattingly and Canseco, Ken Griffey's grotesquely swollen jaw, Steve Sachs and his running with the law. We're talking Homer, Ozzie and the Straw.
Episode 6 of East of the Rockies. We are underway here in the studio. My name's Kevin Klein. On the other side of the glass, Jeremy Parks, Morris Fabry. And on this episode, we're going to talk a little bit Lexington, preview the Kent State series, and hopefully JP and Mo can calm some of my nerves about this season. But we will start with the John Kropp Classic, which took place this weekend in Lexington, Kentucky. I was on site along with Dalton Pataki and Austin Falco. 3 Michigan games after some scheduling changes. Michigan took 2 out of the 3 games, 1 against Kent State, also a win against Evansville, but dropped the game they really needed against Kentucky, 5-1, in which Megan Betza pitched, and aside from a late inning 3-run home run, it was a very tight game, and we saw a lot of the same, a lot that we've been seeing all year long, and that's untimely hitting for the Wolverines.
Kev got locked in the hotel bathroom, too.
I was going to get to that part, but way to ruin the surprise. It's actually a good story. I mean, we probably should shed some light onto it.
No, I think if you just let it sit and then didn't
no
explain,
context necessary.
just got trapped in the bathroom.
Listen, you know what? I'm gonna give a lot of props to the Red Roof Inn in Lexington, Kentucky. They have brand new rooms. They advertised it great. One problem though, the bathroom only opens from the outside. So as you could see, the first time we used the bathroom, there could have been some issues with our exit.
You see, when I first heard this story, I interpreted it as the bathroom at the softball venue opened only from the inside, like in the press box or something like that. So,
Kentucky,
you or Dalton were just like knocking on the door with,
Kentucky
with press creds on and all.
Looked like they had a darn good facility there.
Beautiful.
Like a big press box and everything. And
absolutely beautiful. The setup was great. Really nice stadium. And the softball stadium, John Kropp Stadium, actually connected to the soccer field and that complex as well. A great setup. Really enjoyed Kentucky. We got to see some great softball, but aside from that Kentucky game, which obviously went not in the Wolverines' favor.
Yeah, so you got to see some great softball, just wasn't all played by the Wolverines.
Again,
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
hitting again. Hitting kills the day.
You know what? They had bases loaded, 1 out in the first and 5th innings. The first inning ended with 2 strikeouts from the 5 and 6 hitters, and the 5th inning ended in some similar fashion against a really good pitcher. I mean, Megan Prince, wow, she was good. She's a left-handed pitcher, strikes a ton of people out, able to control the ball, spin the ball real well, and she was really impressive.
Yeah, at some point you got to think that a simple regression to the mean is going to occur with this team. Sometime they're going to be able to cluster some hits together, just find a hole one way or another with runners on base and get the runners in. But it seems like that's only happening against the likes of Kent State, who, walked home 3 runners before Tara Blanco broke it open with a 2-run single.
Kev, I want to ask you something here. We did fill in the blank last week.
No one's filling that in for
I
you,
know,
JP.
yeah. I was waiting to see if maybe you did.
It was only really
second.
funny the first time, and I don't even know if it was funny the first
Well, so
time.
I said blank. So fill in the blank last week. We said Tara Blanco having more wins than Megan Betts is blank, and you said coincidental. At what point does it start to transition from coincidental to possibly something that could hold down the line? Because it seems like obviously Megan Betts is sort of that one pitcher in that she'll get the majority of the marquee matchups, the tougher teams that they play, and the lack of run support has not helped. But I think in watching and listening, it's almost getting to a point where maybe there is a comparable amount of quality in those outings.
Yeah, Tara Blanco is basically the team in a microcosm this season. On the plus side, she got rewarded a Big Ten Pitcher of the Week for a shut-down performance against the Kent State Golden Flashes. Heck of a nickname.
She was crazy good that game. I mean, through the first 3 or 4 innings, she had 8 or 9 strikeouts. And
getting better and better.
I said on the broadcast to Dalton, I said, if you gave me this stat line through 3 innings and you said, is this Blanco or Betsa? I would have told you 10 out of 10 times it was Megan Betsa.
Yeah, Blanco really hadn't had strikeouts as a big part of her game until really breaking out against the Golden Flashes. But, season in a microcosm, really surprisingly effective from the circle has been Tara Blanco. But, at the plate, another story. We've already touched on it, and we'll have to continue to touch on it for as long as it occurs because, the offense is just not there for this team.
But I think going back to my main point about that is right now, and this is a debatable statement, feel free to
I think
interject.
We will.
It seems like, despite the fact that Megan Betts has faced the tougher opponents, Tara Blanco's stuff has been better. Objectively.
I don't know about that.
That's a tough one.
I mean, if you throw Betsa against the teams that Blanco, and this is not taking anything away from Blanco, it's just that the games she has been in are usually the tail end or the second half of a doubleheader where the first opponent's marquee, second opponent maybe is a little overmatched. I think if you put Betsa in those same situations, she has better numbers than what she has.
Look, I think ideally on any staff, you want sort of a balance between someone who pitches to contact, who you can rely upon to just kind of mow through the lineup, trust their defense, not walk a lot of hitters, maybe not rack up the kinds of strikeouts that Megan Betsa does, but someone who is just really consistent in that department. And then you want a flamethrower who you can throw out there, who can catch fire, who can just absolutely shut down opposing lineups. And the Wolverines don't really have that balance right now. Betsa, of course, is the flamethrower, the strikeout getter. You'd want her to be a little more efficient, but, Blanco has still had issues with walks this season. She's still had issues with the long ball this season. And so I don't think that you could argue, even if you prefer one type of pitcher to the other, that Blanco, in maybe being a little closer to one prototype, is the preferable option.
I'm trying to think. And there was obviously no video last week, so I couldn't see very well what was going on in those games. I think there was ESPN3, but it's out of my cable package. So I think the only reason that I'm questioning this is why does it feel like, as a Megan Betsa, somebody who has faced the best of opponents, has gone all the way down the stretch with this Michigan team in the past, is it just because the run support isn't there right now that it seems like she's pitching not nearly as well as she has last season, and even in that Florida game to open up this season, that 10-inning outing where she absolutely was shut down? I just don't know. It seems like things are maybe a step back at the moment for her.
I think everything's under a microscope now because you like you said, the run support's not there, the hits aren't coming, and every run that the Wolverines get or give up, it feels like they actually gave up 3 runs, and that, I think, puts her under a microscope, puts the pitching staff under the microscope, and that's what Carol Hutchins said last week, is all the pitching staff has to do is keep them in the game, but the thing is, keeping the offense in the game now is keeping the opponent under 2 runs, it seems like.
Yeah, and even then, that's not always enough.
Maybe Megan needs to get back to the plate. Maybe that's the big solution here.
It has done wonders for Tara Blanco pitching, but she's also hitting .218 this season. So
yeah. Hey, you know what?
I don't know about that, JP.
There was a potential for a slump breaker for Tara Blanco this weekend. It was against Kentucky. I can't remember how many runners were on. I think 1 or 2, and she drove a ball that I thought was fair right off the bat, literally right off the bat, and she yanked it a little foul, but that ball must have traveled 300 feet. So, I mean, she still got the pop in the bat. And that was against Megan Prince, too. It's just the swing might be a little long right now. The mechanics timing might be a little off.
It's what Hutch said in the interview that Morris did last week. Sadly, we don't have Mo interviews Hutch this week. A lot of confusion with the games going in this week. A very elusive Bowling Green game, but it was all about Terra Blanco trying too hard to win the game on a singular swing, trying too hard to take the biggest cut possible, and just letting the moment more get to her head and starting to let that slump mentally affect her to the point where it's not about getting a base knock and then maybe another base knock. It's about getting one over the fence and then going from there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I could put it any better myself. She's in a rut. I think that what Kev's saying has some merit to, eventually those foul balls, barely foul, they are going to straighten out. They're going to get over the fence. They're going to be home runs for this team. But yeah, also when you get in that kind of mental state, you're not going to have the kind of consistency that you need out of someone who is supposed to be the cleanup hitter this season.
So I want to bring it back to episode 1. Jeremy Parks said danger softballs, and I was very against the term, but I'd like to bring it back and hear your thoughts on how many danger softballs are we at right now?
In terms of hosting a regional, hosting a super, what?
Let's
in terms of making it to the Women's College World Series.
In terms of just getting in the field.
Well, keep things in perspective. The fact that Kentucky game was probably the last ranked opponent that Michigan will face for a good while, unless Ohio State or Northwestern make some things happen in their Big Ten play, close out their non-conf and go into Big Ten play hot. Michigan is about to settle into what I've referred to the last couple of seasons covering this team as kind of the nap time part of the season, where every single game that I would go and cover, it's almost like you go to the ballpark expecting a win, and anything less is just unbelievable.
Anything less than a run rule.
Anything less than a run rule in some junctures was, a not great game. But I think this is still a team that is going to be able to run train on the Big Ten, especially because they don't face Minnesota. So I think in terms of getting to at least a regional, I would only put the danger softballs at about a 2. But in terms of hosting a super or anything like that, Michigan missed way too many opportunities against ranked opponents the last couple of weeks. I think that is all but almost out the window unless they manage to go all the way through the Big Ten tournament, win the regular season, and then beat Minnesota in the Big Ten championship game.
At this point, I'm not even going to worry about the danger softballs that this team is at. I'm not going to worry about the competitive aspect of college sports in general. I'm going to enjoy the little things on this team. I'm going to enjoy things like Natalie Peters' breakout season. I'm going to enjoy the midseason turnarounds as they happen. And, I'm not going to worry too much about where the chips are falling as far as wins and losses are concerned. I think I'll get a lot more enjoyment out of the team this season. My blood pressure will remain at acceptable levels, and so I'm not going to give you a danger softballs, Kevin. I think that
I think here's one thing.
I think that removing myself from the win-loss totals is going to be better for my sanity for danger softballs.
So you've given up.
You could put it that way. I have adopted a different approach to viewing the games in the first place.
Minnesota actually finally lost a couple of games in Seattle.
That was sick.
Right. They got run ruled in 5 innings, 9-0 by Washington in the last game of that series. They lost 3-2 in the other one. But I don't know. I think this is a Michigan team that still has the capability down the line of beating every single team that they face all the way up until the end of the season. Not only has the capability to do it, but I think in every single matchup that they have left, with the exception of a possible Minnesota in the Big Ten championship game if they make it that far.
And keep in mind that game would be at home.
And it would be a home game. I think this is a Michigan team that has a very good chance of still making some noise. If you look at it, how many losses now on the season? 7 or 8?
Yep, 7.
7? You go all the way down to the end of the season and you only post 7 losses, I think you're still looking at the possibility of a super.
Okay,
JP. That's optimistic even for you, Jeremy. This is a team that barely beat New Mexico State out in the Mary Nutter Classic.
And that's what's frustrating, because they need late inning heroics from Kelly Christner in that game. And then in the same 7-day span, they take the number 1 team in the country to extra innings, and without their last at bats, and with international tiebreak rules, you don't know what can happen.
Call me the bull. Call me the bull.
Will do. I think you are full of bull, but
not bull. The bull.
Sure.
Bullish.
Sure. Yeah, I get where you're going with that. I think you're full of bullish. But while it's one thing to laud the team for winning the games that they should win, by and large, they have won the games that they should win throughout this season. I think it's totally unrealistic to expect perfection in the win-loss column. Even if they should win.
I didn't say expect it.
Yeah, I know, but expect anywhere near that.
I would. I think this is a team that's going to do very well down the line.
Each individual matchup, Michigan, for the rest of the season, should be favored to win in each game that they play, but to expect a kind of consistency, a kind of high level of play that just hasn't been there against higher level teams early on, I think that's out there. I think this team is going to take a step back, and it's already shown that it has taken a step back, and while the ship may be righted eventually, I don't think it's coming, bang, bang.
Well, there you go. And I think one thing that should be mentioned and should be talked about is maybe a new style of Michigan softball as we start looking, wrapping up non-conference schedule. They have 3 games against Kent State this weekend, a couple midweek games next week, a Tuesday showdown with Bowling Green, Wednesday matinee with Eastern Michigan, but the 3 games against Kent State first. And I think it's more realistic to expect a smaller type of Michigan softball. A lot more bunting, a lot more stealing bases, trying to
ticky-tack small ball.
Ticky-tack. You have disdain in your voice, JP.
I just that's not the Michigan softball that I've grown to be accustomed to, and maybe that's what they need right now, but I don't think you're going to see them going that route just yet.
Things change. I think, if you choose to go that route, though, you've got to be able to go whole hog. And I think that some of the hitters in the middle of the lineup strike out a little too much for small. Like, Aiden Falk just does not fit within a small ball approach. She can drive the ball all over the place, but, she doesn't have the speed, and she doesn't make contact enough.
And maybe let's clarify. I'm not talking about everyone in the lineup,
but
fair. The bottom of the lineup, for sure, when first off, they're not really hitting the ball great. And second off, when you have the top of the lineup at 1-2, 2 slap hitters, they fit the mold a little better to have that small ball approach. Then let Christner and Blanco and Falk, they can mash. Let them do that. That's what they're best at. But maybe the others, in order to generate and manufacture some runs, that's the strategy that needs to be implemented going forward.
Yeah, you got to try something new. When the current formula is not working, maybe you lean more in that small ball direction. But the biggest beef that I have with small ball is not the aesthetic of it all or anything like that. It's that it generally just doesn't work. And it hasn't worked, even though the Wolverines have been running more, have been, maybe bunting a bit more.
Small base path.
Yeah, it's been designed to scratch runs across, but the runs have not been scratched across. And I think that's only going to start happening when you get hitting across the board. And it's one thing to ask for that. It's another thing to put it into practice.
Well, that is something we can look forward to this weekend, see what the strategy is.
Call it a segue.
The opponent is Kent State, the Golden Flashes. Michigan defeated them in the John Kropp Classic. They have 3 games against the Golden Flashes this weekend, 2 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday. And the one player that really impressed me watching in person for Kent State was Ronnie Ledeen's, who's the quote-unquote ace of the staff. She really held the Kentucky Wildcats in check, tried to hold Michigan in check, just kind of lost her control later on in the game, and that's what led to her downfall. But Ledeen's definitely showed a lot of potential. I'm assuming the Wolverines will see her twice, probably Janelle Hayes in the 3rd game. But from a pitching front, Kent State has some potential, and from an offensive front, the lineup is not very deep, but the 3-4 hitters in Maddie Grimm and Holly Spears have a ton of power. And for anyone on the Michigan pitching staff, those are 2 players you want to watch out for as well.
Now, Kev, you've got way more exposure to this Kent State team than either of us do. I can't speak for JP, but I didn't do much research on them. They're Kent State. Do you think there's a realistic chance Michigan drops a game over this 3-game set?
I want to say no, but I think just with with Michigan's offense being so sporadic, if a pitcher like Ledeen's is able to limit the walks, limit the dumb mistakes, then absolutely, because just Michigan's offense is all over the place. But I think at the end of the day, they have to go, and they will go 3-0.
We are at a point where, Morris, I don't mean to chastise you. You said you didn't do any research on them because they are just Kent State. This program, at this moment in time, is not at a point where they can have the luxury of looking at a team, and us as commentators looking at a team anymore and saying this is just a Kent State. This is a Kent State game that there is a darn good chance that they could give Michigan a run for their money in any matchup. What was the final score of the game in Kentucky, Kev?
5-1.
Yeah, not all that far. Like, doors were not blown off the bar 5-1.
Oh, they were blown off. They weren't even attached to begin with.
Not at 5-1.
Yeah, absolutely. No, with 5-1. Yes.
No. This is not a Kent State team where you can just look at it and think it's easy. I'm bullish as hell. I am the bull. I think this team is more than capable of doing it. I think they do it, but I don't think we have the luxury at this point in time to just look at a Kent State and say, it's the golden flashes. We're going to sit back on our laurels and just have a time. This is a different time for us as a station. It's a different time for Michigan as a program. I don't care what our interviews say when we go and talk to the players and they say, every game is the same. Every game is... You can't tell me that when you're that...
This is a rallying cry, damn it.
They were last year, that they can sit down every single week and say, wow, we're really going to sweat this one against the old Scarlet Knights of Rutgers, fence the garden. It's happening. This is now a program that has to take every single game as seriously as they would a game against Florida, as seriously as they would against a UCLA, as seriously as they would against any damn opponent in the country, because this is a team that now has the alert bells on. I rang the alarm last week. You don't have it on that side on the board, but I'll ring it again.
I could kind of do maybe an alarm sound like
That sounds like a car alarm.
That was brutal. This is not a time for joking. This is a time for vigilance. This is a time for preparation. This is a time for a rebirth. We are about to close out the non-conference schedule. If they ever get this game in against Bowling Green, that'll happen as well. But
I think the Falcons are dodging us. They're dodging us.
They don't want this. This is a team that's getting ready and revamped to come into Big Ten play and run train. They will do things that I can't use inappropriate words on this podcast, but they are going to do some stuff to some other stuff up, and this team is ready to come back.
The Golden Flashes, more like a golden opportunity for this softball team.
That was bad.
Come on.
I like that. That's a good one.
I was actually really impressed. I think the thing that impressed me...
With the pun?
No. Can I finish my sentence? I think the thing that impressed me most about Kent State, the jerseys were pretty cool.
I'm looking forward to
these
that.
helmets.
Why are you focused on the jerseys, Kev? This is not a team where you can go jersey hunting. This is a team that you need to look at with some serious respect.
Go on, Kev.
It's fine. I mean, my feelings are kind of hurt, but I'm not going to pout like JP did a couple weeks ago.
I am not. I'm out of the pouting mood. I'm out of the, wow, this is not the same as last year mood. I am now in the
rallying cry.
This is time to wake up. This is time to get after it.
You know what? I think what would really complete and really just solidify in my head that JP was in front of the rallying crowd. I think you should ask Hutch to lead the team on the field on Saturday afternoon.
I value my life.
With a big
I'm
Michigan
rally cry
flag
from the basement here of the Student Activities Building. I'm not going to go out there in the dugout and try and make things happen because that's on the players. But as broadcasters, we have a sacred responsibility to follow this team and the teams that they play with integrity and with respect.
And so you did a ton of research on Kent State this weekend.
I did not, and that's on me.
Okay.
I will be the first. There is a mirror sitting directly behind Morris at this table. It's pointing right at me.
Just imagine a mirror.
I am taking a deep introspective look at myself and thinking, I can no longer take opponents for granted. I can't look at a New Mexico State and think that is an easy game to win when it isn't anymore. It's just not.
This has been a hell of a monologue.
I wish I could dismiss him. He's not wrong. He's not that wrong. He's a little crazy, but he's not that wrong.
I'm still on board with the whole Hutch idea, I think.
You can't tell me, Kev, that last year Michigan would go into a tournament like they did in Kentucky, and given Kentucky was a ranked team. But even at a team that was ranked 19th, this team would probably look at that with a half glance and think that is a team that we are supposed to beat. That is a team that is easier to beat than we should have any problems with. And now everything is just shot to hell. It's different. We got to look at it with a different lens, and I'm still looking at myself in the mirror thinking that we got to do something different.
See, again, this is why I took that alternative approach. My blood pressure's fine. JP is out here, in conniptions.
Nobody's making plays.
I can see JV, goodness gracious.
I didn't intend to get on this when we started, but every single weekend now that I've been watching Michigan softball, every single weekend I come away disappointed, and every single weekend I go back in to the next weekend with higher expectations than I should have. So now I am done guaranteeing wins.
The bull has grown some horns.
I'm done making predictions that give Michigan undefeated weekends every weekend.
Okay, so are they going 0-3 then? Is that your prediction?
They're not going 0-3, Kev. Don't get me wrong. Don't paint the wrong picture
All right,
here.
what are they going then?
I don't want to make a prediction this week because I don't want to disappoint myself. I think this is a team that's going to come back with a little bit of fervor now.
What has this podcast turned into? JP's not making predictions, and Morris isn't caring about the standings. Morris is caring about the little things on the team. Like, geez, come on.
2-1, Kev. Fine.
Thanks.
Have it. 2-1.
Thank you.
Hey man, I'm not a pessimist. I'll give him 3-0. I gave him 8-2 over Judy Garman and Mary Nutter.
And how'd that go? Because we took them for granted.
7-2-1.
Morris, no, 6-3-1.
6-3-1.
JP went 9-1 on that tournament.
And look how it went because I got too excited.
You overlooked some teams.
I overlooked some teams. I think everybody overlooked the likes of a New Mexico State, and that was still a win.
All right.
Yeah,
we've beaten this into the ground.
JP, are you good? Anything else you want to get out of your system?
No, it's all right.
Okay.
Trey Burke's block on Peyton Siva was clean.
That's true.
All right, good. We are in
now since we're stating uncomfortable truths.
JT was short. That everybody knows that.
Okay.
I don't know about that one.
These are I guess that
well, somebody didn't read the parallax.
Michigan athletics, man. Great things can kind of bring your heart down though a little bit. Moving on.
All right, I'm bucking back up.
All right, JP's going 2-1 this weekend. Morris is 3-0. I will go 3-0 as well. These are must wins. Every game until the championship series is a must win game, and they will win every game. I'm on the bull.
You're now riding the bull. Grab a hold of the horns, buddy. We're going for a ride.
No, I'm a skilled rider. I don't need no horns.
There's electric bulls this weekend for St. Patty's Day out in Ann Arbor.
I know. That's how I trained.
Electric bull weekend. Mm-hmm. Michigan's about to have a bull of a weekend.
All right. Let's move into our segment part of the podcast.
No interviews this week. Sorry.
No interviews. Yeah.
I had to fill in the time there.
It's a chilly week in Ann Arbor. Let's start with by the numbers. Big one for me, and I think it's very relevant after JP thinks that, Betsa isn't up to her standards. 134. That number, Betsa's strikeouts this year, third nationally. Thoughts on that one, JP? I'll start with you.
I'll tell you this. If the strikeouts are one thing, and yes, that is a darn impressive stat. Look at the way that Megan Betsa pitches. She's a strikeout pitcher. But you could be a pitcher that has a 6 ERA, but every single out you get is strikeouts. I think we look, and that's obviously blown out of proportion in terms of Megan Betsa.
Yes.
But a pitcher that should darn well be, with the stuff that she brings, one of the top 5 pitchers in the country, in my opinion, at any given time. I think she has the stuff to do it. But the lack of run support the confidence has waned, I think, in the circle because there's nobody putting up anything behind her. And we've seen it a little bit in past years, the home runs that come kind of at a sporadic rate, but they're starting to come more often. People are starting to hit off Megan Betsa harder than they ever have. And I don't know. I don't know what it is. I haven't been able to watch a whole lot of, tape on it or film if there's something in the mechanics, but it just seems like people are getting to her more often and a bit better.
Tape or film. We're digging deep here.
Well, tape, whatever.
JP still got a VCR.
I'm just all out of sorts right now.
JP is still riding high off
I'll give a little context. It's been a long week. I've had I got a presentation at a seminar that I haven't even started finishing yet for Friday. I've got exams out the wazoo this week. I've been working nonstop trying to pay these bills. It's been a burnout week. So
it's been a grind. It's been a grind for the team and for all of us in our individual lives. I'm not going to ascribe any notions of confidence or of mechanics to Megan Betts. I just think, she's taken a little while to get into the swing of things. She spent the whole off season off the field, recuperating from ailments that she had. Sure, she's still walking too many hitters, too much power number, too many home runs against her. But I think she's going to be fine. I think she'll bring that ERA down, and I'll give her credit for where she's due because the strikeout total is really impressive.
I think she's been very impressive, and I think one of the most misleading and misinterpreted stats for a pitcher is the win-loss record, and that brings us to our next by the numbers, 5. The amount of losses Betsa has this year, matching last season's total. Quickly, what do you guys think about that one?
I think that you covered this very well at the beginning of the season with the beginning of the episode with the whole microscope thing. Every flub that she has is all of a sudden magnified by the fact that the offense can't scratch across any runs. Her ERA is the same now as it was last year. The defense behind her isn't quite as sound, and you're not getting any more 7-5 wins under the belt. You got to be perfect, especially when you're pitching against all of the ranked teams. Otherwise, you're going to get the loss. That's just how it works. It's a cold world.
I'll agree with that. I think in terms of, obviously, the strikeout, she has the put-away pitches. She has always had that. That has not waned. It's the pitches that come before, the setup, that has been difficult. You look at the home runs that she's given up, extra base hits that have come off of her arm. It's not on those put-away pitches. It's early and mid-count pitches where she's starting to give up a bit more. So whether that comes down to hitting spots or just doing something a little bit differently, maybe switching up the ordering of her pitches, I don't know. But 5 losses for a pitcher like Megan Betts, I can't say that it's, an awful stat line. She's obviously still done pretty well considering the gauntlet that Michigan went through to start the season. They faced a lot of good and ranked opponents. Obviously didn't fare as well as we'd hoped they did, but I'm starting to come back to realizations now as I'm looking in the mirror that this team still only has 7 losses, and that isn't terrible. I think that's definitely not where this team has been in the past, but it is not the end of the world, especially closing out non-conference play and heading into the Big Ten where they normally have had very great success.
Next segment. That was by the numbers. This is fill in the blank. Have a couple on the docket today. First one. All right, so same thing, same rules apply as
I haven't
last
looked
week.
at these yet, so I'm more surprised. Normally
same
I have
rules
them in
apply.
front of me.
I'm firing them off. You guys are firing an answer back quickly, ASAP. Ready? With the season on the line, I want blank in the circle.
Tara.
It's still Betsa for me. Wow. I want Megan Betsa.
I want Betsa. Betsa has the experience. Betsa has the strikeout ability, able to keep runners planted.
I'm not that surprised, JP. After what you've ripped off in this podcast, not surprised.
Disgruntled.
Next, blank is going to break out of a slump this weekend.
Tara.
I mean, you can't just default to one.
At the plate.
Whatever works. Yeah, no, that's what we're talking. Lindsay Montemarano, she's turned it on more as of late. Hasn't really struggled like she did in the opening weekend, but she really loves the home confines at Alumni.
And you got to keep in mind, too, Monty has never been the big stat line player. I think breaking out of a slump for her can look a lot different than a player like Tara Blanco.
Yeah, and she started to draw the walks. I think you'll see the power this weekend.
I'm going to say Courtney Richardson. She's due for a hit. 5 for 12 first weekend, or first couple weekends. Has fallen off a little bit since, but she's going to get back on track, playing a good left field.
Back on the bull.
Back on the bull. Third one. At this point in the season, blank seems a little out of the picture.
Hosting a super regional.
The Women's College World Series.
Ouch.
Yeah.
That's harsh. I mean, that's such a damper to go out on.
Mo's not on the bull.
Calls him like us. I won't be devastated because I'm appreciating the little things, Kev. I'll appreciate seeing Megan Betts her senior season. I'm going to appreciate the breakouts that we do have. And if Michigan comes up short in the regionals, well, I will have enjoyed the season.
You know what? This team is going to have a heck of a lot of wins, plenty to get in the field at least. And I think a regional is still very in the question, and fingers crossed it is.
It's more than in the question. It's the answer.
They're
It's destined.
They're 19 right now. The new poll came out yesterday. They're 19.
How? Who's making the polls?
I don't know.
Yeah,
what do you think? Overranked? Underranked?
Yeah, I think over. I mean, Kentucky was number 19 heading into the John Crop Classic, and they outclassed the Wolverines.
I think you have to look at, in terms of how this team has played, their losses to ranked opponents, although, not great losses. They haven't been terrible. They haven't lost by a ton of runs in a lot of these games, and they played a team like Florida to a 10-inning battle, and they've had some close battles with some very good opponents since. So I think obviously the losses don't look great, but you have to look in context of where those losses came and who they came to.
I have faith in a lot of the players on this team to turn things around. It's hard to ignore mounting evidence that it is not a top 8 team in the country.
I appreciate the fact that you're starting to look at it with, that lens, Mo.
Hashtag sample sizes.
Getting larger.
Larger and larger.
All right, last thing before we get out of here is we've touched on it. We've said the hitting. JP doesn't have any confidence in Betts. I don't know what.
It's not that I don't have any confidence. If I had to pick an arm right now, I think Tara has more confidence.
One thing I'll ask you guys, I'll say my answer first. One thing that needs to be done or doesn't need to be done, maybe just a suggestion, put it in the suggestion box in Carol Hutchins' office. One thing that can be done to maybe shake up the chemistry of this team and ignite the offense or right the ship as for the team. And I'll go first. I think Amanda Vargas deserves a couple more at-bats, and I don't know where those at-bats will come from. Maybe she'll cut in a little bit to Tara Blanco's at-bats when she's in the circle. But Vargas has been impressive for me thus far. 2 home runs on the season, and especially a team that's desperate for power. She has shown that she can hit the long ball, drive the ball into the gaps, and I think put together some quality at-bats. So I am on Team Vargas.
Yeah, my suggestion goes against pretty much every sabermetric bone in my body, but it's move Abby Ramirez back down to the bottom of the lineup. I don't like having 2 slap hitters in a row at the top of the line. I think too many rallies just sort of die that way. I don't know if I'd necessarily separate the two. Maybe put Abby or Natalie Peters at 6th as sort of a leadoff hitter in the middle of the order, but I just think you got to have some RBI, some power potential at any given on-deck circle. I don't love the Slap Sisters combo as it currently stands, even though they've done so well this season.
And even though Abby Ramirez said that it was a cute saying.
Yeah, I know.
They're still 9-1.
It feels rotten saying that, but
wow.
I think that it needs to be shaken up. Not the problem, but just something.
Just a solution.
Pushing Tara Blanco back in the lineup, just a hair. I'm not saying move her all the way back to the bottom of the order, but I think the higher up in the order you are, obviously, the less you're going to get to hit. And I don't know. You move her back in the lineup a little bit. She always did well and was comfortable around that 5 slot. I don't know that that's, a thing that would be completely out of the question for a game in this Kent State series. I don't think it happens, but I don't think it's wrong to think that that might be a potential solution.
For what it's worth, she was hitting 7th, I believe, in a couple of those games over the weekend. So
and started to get a little bit better.
Definitely better pitches to hit.
Yeah,
better at bats, hitting the ball.
And I don't know that 7 is the solution either. I think
okay. So you said 5.
5 was the big slot last year, and I don't know. Maybe there's some comfort there. Players have weird idiosyncrasies where maybe that's just a place that she hits well and she's good at. There's a lot of expectations that come with hitting where she has been in the lineup for the majority of the season.
All right. Well, there you have it. Let's go around the horn quickly. Close with one thing we learned, one thing we want to know. Anyone want to go first?
I learned it's
JP?
time to switch the glasses, get a new prescription, look at this thing through a different light. I don't know. I, as a fan of this team, have been living the good life for so long. I can only tell you, Alabama fans, it's going to come your way someday when you're not going to be as good at football, and it's going to hurt. Right now, this team is not as good at softball as they were last year and in past years, and it hurts to have to watch every weekend to know that you're not the best team in the country or one of the best teams in the country at the given moment. One thing that I still want to learn, I would like to learn, I don't know. I'd like to learn where in the mind of some of these hitters that calm, cool, collected nature at the plate went. I think I might have said something along these lines in last week's episode, but there was just, in previous situations and clutch situations with runners on base, I remember last year this was a team that just thrived on 2-out situations and was fantastic at 2-out runs. And where did that go? I mean, there's something in you that gives you a certain kind of composure at the plate in those situations, and it's absent at the moment. I'd like to know what happened to it.
One thing I learned is that optimism can take many different forms, as we have seen from JP throughout this episode.
Roller coaster.
It can be a volatile thing. One thing I want to learn, just who's going to step up in the power department. I want to see some long balls. I want to get some home run calls in this weekend. I'm aching for it.
Mo, you are on Saturday's calls.
And Sunday.
And you are on Sunday's call. Austin Falco will join you Saturday, and I believe Dalton will join you Sunday.
I'm going to get real familiar with the Golden Flashes.
WCBNsports.org. As always, YouTube, WCBN Sports for those.
You know what, speaking of home runs, I mean, let's give some credit to Taylor Swearingen.
It's a good shot.
Yeah, I mean, that was a heck of a shot coming off the bench cold, pinch hitting in the 5th inning, and that was the lone run scored by the Wolverines that day. So shout out Taylor Swearingen, heck of a home run in that game. You know what? I'm going to keep mine Lexington themed and actually Red Roof Inn themed. One thing I learned is that you always have to check the bathroom doors upon entry and exit to make sure both sides are functional. One thing I want to know is who else is going to get trapped in the Red Roof Inn bathroom, room 251?
I got a question for you, and you tell me if this is something that you want to know as we get off here for this episode. Which way does a doorknob turn?
To the right.
Which way does a doorknob turn? I challenge you to test doorknobs throughout the night tonight and tell me which way they turn.
Well, I'm going to start with this one in the studio when I'm on the way out.
Okay.
What are you getting at?
Some doorknobs go both ways. I had a college scholarship essay at Central Michigan that like the only prompt was which way does a doorknob turn? That's all it was. And then you wrote an essay about it.
Well, fire up chips.
Fire up chips.
Good for them.
The doorknob to the auditorium where they gave the talk turned both ways.
Closing thoughts?
None.
Duality is an incredible thing.
You know what? JP's getting real weird on us. I don't know what
I'm
he
telling
ate
you, it has
today.
been just a long week, man.
All right.
For those who stuck in the whole time, thanks. Appreciate it.
WCBNsports.org is where you can find all of our blogs, podcasts, broadcasts. WCBN Sports on YouTube will have full coverage for the Kent State Michigan series. We will leave you with a good night.
Wait, email the pod at eotrpod@gmail.com. Send me well wishes. Send all of us well wishes. Send us questions, anything you'd like to see in the future.
Hashtag Team Vargas. That's what I'm on. We'll leave you with a good night and a Go Blue and some Tal Bachman. I've just been feeling this vibe. Yep. I just listen and learn.
She's blood, flesh and bone, no tox or silicone. She's touch, smell, sight, taste and sound. But somehow I can't believe that anything should happen